All right. Welcome everyone to Dig4, our session that we're doing today. It's our fourth episode today. I would like to thank Andrew Rathbun to join us today. Again, we're having a little discussion about how the digital forensic community has grown and how it's evolved over the past several years. Andrew, again, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. I'll pass it over to you to do a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. My name is Andrew Rathbun. Most of you probably know me as the administrator of the Digital Forensics Discord server. I have my hand in a couple other cookie jars around the community. Do a lot of stuff on GitHub. I contribute to about DFIR. I currently work at Kroll as an incident response consultant. Been there for about 3.5 years or so. Prior to that, I was at HHS OIG as a civilian forensic examiner. I was there for about a year. And prior to that, I was local law enforcement at Michigan State University Police Department for 7 years. 4 years of that, I was on patrol. Last 3 years, I was on as a digital forensics detective. Prior to that, I was in the United States Marine Corps, and I was an infantryman. Went over to Fallujah back in 2006, 2007. So it's kind of my life story in a nutshell.
Thank you for your service. So, an interesting note: we actually have never actually met in person.
That's true.
We've talked and chatted over various methods for,
Yeah.
I'd say at least probably what, 6-7 years now or so.
Yeah.
And we missed our last opportunity to meet in person in Austin back in August for the Sands Summit.
Yep.
And
About 6 weeks ago, give or take.
And it's we missed each other, so I'm like, hey, timing. Interesting enough. One of my first papers that little white paper that I wrote, Andrew helped me out about. It's about how to push a manual customer recovery to a phone in S6, and I think that one's still floating around on Discord. Actually, I've sent it to a couple people.
WRP or something.
Yeah, it's the twerp for an S6. It was.
Yep.
There's some mistakes that I made along the way. I remember I misspelt your name in that as well,
Sure.
So it was great.
Hey, you and only everyone else since kindergarten. It's fine.
Yes. So, hey, Kevin, nice to see you. We have people joining the chat. You're not seeing that, Andrew, but Kevin says
I do
hi.
have it up on other monitor.
Gotcha. So, so your current role, your work, what do you do? What do you do on a day-to-day job?
Mostly ransomware cases is most of what we deal with at Kroll, or at least the team that I'm on. I'm actually on Team Canada, so I usually deal with a lot of Canadian clients. But yeah, a breach happens, and they report to a law firm. A law firm then says, "Hey, let's use Kroll," and then if it's a Canadian client, then typically it comes to our team, and it's just a matter of figuring out what happened. Kind of the way I like to equate it for the non-technical folks is think of it as like a 100-car pile up on a highway, and you're the responding officer. Figure out what happened, what the damage was. In this instance, what was taken. Just kind of like the battle damage assessment, as we call it in the military. What happened? When did it happen? And client wants to know how can we avoid this in the future. So, and then of course they have different obligations with, okay, if 100,000 people's social security numbers were taken, we got to now notify them. So a lot of our forensics will drive some of those decisions that the lawyers have to make.
Super interesting. Even internally, we've kind of talked about this, like even in my own team, like I'm glad that people take care of that and do that, because for me, that's like way outside my scope. So I'm like, I'll stick to phones and computers, but like the IR stuff, I'm like, it's nice to see that, other people can handle this. So how did you get into forensics? Because you have a vast background, kind of similar to mine actually, because I did come from military and then policing and then kind of ended up in tech. So how did you end up in forensics? What drew you to that?
So I was always kind of techie. And when I was on my 4 years of patrol, I was kind of identified as like I work night shift, so 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Of course, the IT staff is gone at that time. So whenever someone had a problem with something on their, mobile terminal, they'd come and reach out to me. I'd usually fix it. And if I couldn't, I'd escalate to IT. So rinse and repeat that for 4 years. And then, once an opportunity came up for, hey, we need a digital forensic detective, I was the first one they thought of. And they're like, hey, you're doing this in January 2016. I'm like, all right. So, yep, I did it. And yeah, that's kind of how it worked. So it kind of goes to show you're kind of auditioning for something every single day of your life by how you put yourself out there, because people will make an assessment of you for what you're doing every single day. So when something comes up that fits you perfectly, boom, we need Andrew for that. So
Could
it's
you have
just kind of
ever
one thing to keep in mind.
imagined it would have gone to this point, right? Rewind back to 2016 when you did this,
No,
right? Like
no, my degrees are in criminal justice, sociology, and human resources administration. Nothing to do with computer science, tech, forensics, cybersecurity, nothing like that. I was planning to be a chief of the police department someday, but completely different path I'm on now. So, and obviously, I'm totally okay with that.
it's interesting because like even for me, it's like it started as a hobby and that turned into a career path. Um,
Hmm.
it's it's you can't really predict where you're going to end up, but I mean some of the
Yeah.
choices and kind of how things evolve, you just it works out.
Yep.
So since we haven't really met, we communicated often in virtual channels.
Hmm.
Um, let's do a little dive into history about this. So so for those that don't know, Andrew is one of the people that started the Digital Forensic Discord channel. The joining links, if you aren't aware or aren't part of that, is it's in the video description. So what led you to actually start this? Kind of why did you go down to that path?
So I think you and I probably met on like the Google group, or I think that's where the IRC channel started from. It was a mobile forensics channel on IRC on Freenode, and so it was you, me, and like 10 other people, give or take. So we're talking back and forth there. You know, I was a detective at the time. You were a detective at the time. All the others were detectives, all doing our mobile forensics things. And back in the Android 4 days, probably 5, 3, somewhere around that area. I don't know what version iOS because I'm an Android guy, but trying to use all these flasher boxes and ways to get into these phones. So I think what spawned us needing to move to Discord was actually prior to all this. I had joined Discord just because it was kind of a new thing. Oh, what is this? Okay, joining some servers. Okay, that's cool. So we're talking on IRC for a few months, and I need to post a picture of a phone. I'm trying to like convey a message to you guys, and it would be best in a picture. I'm like, man, IRC's it's fine. It's text based. There's no rich features to post a picture, embed a picture, anything like that. So I had to like basically take a phone or take a picture of like evidence, my evidence phone, upload it to like Imgur, paste the link, and I'm like, we got it. We need something better for this. So I'm like, hey, let's do Discord because that's a thing I've kind of been using the last few months. I really like it. It's got a bunch of quality life features that we're lacking on IRC. So that's kind of how it came out. And it actually was the mobile forensics Discord server for a while until we started getting more requests and more people that were non-mobile forensics focused. And so we changed it to digital forensics Discord server, and the rest is history.
So since Discord is primarily used for gaming and kind of within that side of the community, is that play video games?
Sorry, what was the
Do you
question?
play video games as well? Is that kind of
As
where?
much as I can, yes,
Okay.
yes. And actually, they've changed the messaging, the branding. I think it was like a year or two ago. They're like, hey, we're not just for games. We're trying to be just for everyone. So,
Well,
um,
you definitely capture that. I think what the community has grown to today is definitely kind of showcases that it does it's a lot more than just games.
absolutely.
So,
Hmm.
who can join the Discord?
Technically, anybody, anyone can join. It's a public server. It's you can just Google digital forensics Discord server, and it's more than likely going to be a post that I put on one forum or another, be it Reddit, Forensic Focus, etc. Of hey, here's the link. You should join this.
So,
Really, anyone can. The only requirement really is you have to go in there and post in the role assignment channel. Say, hey, I work for the private sector. Hey, if you're law enforcement, tell me what country you are because we have it separated by country. Because when you're chatting with people, it would be nice to know if a cop somewhere is asking people a question and you can see they're from Sweden or you can see they're from whatever country because obviously there's different laws in every country. So that's the only reason why we break it down: law enforcement USA, law enforcement Canada, etc. I think it was about 75, at least 75 countries. So think about it. I don't know how many countries there are in the world. I think it's around 180, but we've got about 75 of them represented, which is amazing, including Iraq, believe it or not.
the what's the total count for user wise?
I think we're over 12,000, just over 12,000.
That's incredible. Because again, is
Yeah.
this community? It's global, right? Whether
Yep.
you're in Canada or in Australia, New Zealand, everyone's facing similar challenges. It's probably it is a fantastic way for users to connect and kind of bounce ideas back and forth. I just kind of quickly shared some of the, actually, I'll back up. Um, Different channels. There are so many different channels, whether it's some of the training, programming, reverse engineering, cloud forensics, even the off-duty one. There is a lot in there.
Yes.
When events are running, like we have our Capture the Flag that's about to start very soon, there's their own channel. Again, there's different vendors in here. You can pretty much reach out to almost anyone and kind of get a response for them fairly quickly. So it's actually really nice to, and then even interact with the community as well, because I've actually met a lot of people through here that actually spawned a lot of discussions afterwards and then in person as well. So
Yep. And real quick, I'll share one story too. Probably one of the coolest stories that I've heard is it was a cop in Alaska, and he's like the nearest agency to me is like 3 hours away, and I'm a one man shop. The server has been a life changer for me because if I need any help, it's a 3 hour drive through the treacherous weather just to get some help. So I know there's multiple other stories like that, but it's been a game changer for a lot of people, myself included. So.
definitely, and I think the Forensic Forecast Awards do speak for themselves. You did win, the server did win, I know, this year as well.
Yep.
So I know the community definitely appreciates this. So Discord is not only, it's not the only project you're kind of working on. Can you tell us about some of the other stuff you're working on? And I'll start with how about Cape, for those that aren't familiar with.
Yep. So Cape is a triage tool that you can use for Windows forensics, created by Eric Zimmerman. I work at Kroll, so Cape is our tool. Eric works at Kroll, of course. So it's a tool that kind of automates all of his easy tools and really any other command line tool that you want. The targets and modules that Cape uses is open source. It's on GitHub. So that's kind of one of the projects that I help out a lot with, including a couple of his other easy tools, including some tools I write myself and some scripts that I put together. And just it's a lot of fun. GitHub's a lot of fun. I just want to say it's one of those skills that I think a lot of people, you don't need to know how to code, but you should really understand how GitHub works, the basics of Git. I could talk about this for a while, but I'd strongly recommend if you are interested in learning GitHub, but you don't know how to code, but you still want to contribute, there's a channel to talk about that stuff on the Digital Forensics Discord server called Open Source DFIR Projects. Um, that's an essential skill. Git's not going away. So many things are in cybersecurity and digital forensics are on GitHub. You need to know how to interact with it and maybe even contribute to it.
So GitHub is a nice little transition to my next part. You also run something called the DFIR Artifact Museum. Um,
Yes. Yep.
it's again, it's on GitHub as well. Do you want to explain a little bit what this is and what you're trying to accomplish here with this?
Yeah. So one thing I found is, as time goes on, the past kind of gets forgotten about, or it's harder to revisit the past, right? Unless someone is actively preserving it. So as we have so many operating systems that come and go, think Windows Phone, think BlackBerry, it would be nice to have those artifacts sitting around. So if you ever did need to reference it, it's there. So I've fleshed out a lot of the Windows section because I do Windows forensics for a living, and that's kind of my bread and butter. Really could use more help on iOS, Android, um, Linux. I know it's just logs, but just being able to have a sample log of whatever's on Linux right there for people to be able to look at, get familiar with. It's more of a repo to just have accessibility to artifacts. If, hey, I want to make a parser for whatever artifact, boom, there's sample artifacts right here. Or, hey, I just want to see what are the common artifacts on Linux or on Android 8, Android 11, compare that. In the Android folder, for instance, I compared the amount of SQLite databases between 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 based off Josh Hickman's images. So just to be able to look at the progression of the amount of SQLite databases that are on those images, I think it goes from like 800 to like now 2,500 in Android 12. So it's just kind of a way to chronicle passively how artifacts change over time, and just to be able to give people sample data to make tools with, or just validate, your smoking gun evidence is in sms.db for Android 12. Let's go look at a different one and just validate what I'm seeing, test my query, that sort of thing. Lot of endless possibilities with it, I think.
Which we were going through this, I think it was last weekend, that I know Ian was looking for a specific phone that he was trying to, an iOS version, iOS 8. Where do you try to find an iPhone or an iOS device running iOS 8? It makes it very challenging. So for those that are listening, contribute any contributions are helpful. I know I chatted with Andrew about this, and we are kind of trying to figure out how we can best kind of provide some of the information to you, or at least to contribute to this as well. Because again, it's the community effort as part of that, and you do see that Kevin's name got was on that list as well. Josh's, again, big community effort as well. Again, I
Yep.
think the whole premise of this is it's a community effort. One thing as well, I know that you started writing a book, or at least a portion of that. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, that's you're referring to the Hitchhiker's Guide to DFIR. Yeah, which did win a Forensic Forecast Award this year. So it was a idea that just kind of came to my head. I'm like, hey, I really like using GitHub. Hey, I'm kind of interested in getting into self-publishing of books. Why don't you combine the ideas? And at the time, I didn't really have an idea for writing for enough material for an entire book myself. So I'm like, okay, why don't we, see if there's anyone else who wants to contribute a chapter or two, and rinse repeat that till you got 15, 20 chapters, and hey, now you got all of a sudden you got a complete book. So I think right now we have about 14ish chapters, and maybe one or two off on that. We're looking to hopefully get to 20. But really, if anyone is watching this and has ever wanted to maybe write a book someday or publish something, but just doesn't have enough material, but you can write a little bit more about something than a blog post, get with me. And you got a chapter. We got probably 6 spots left. Once we get to 20, we'll probably put a cap on it. Actually get a physical product out, because right now it's digital only, PDF and EPUB. But hey, you could have a chapter writing credit to your name. So it's a
Awesome.
pretty cool project. So everyone's written about a completely different thing. We don't have a plot in this book, right? every chapter is independent of the others. So it's been a really cool for me to watch unfold, and hopefully for the other authors, it's been a cool experience for them.
That's awesome. I know it's still on my to-do list. I still have that pen. I know we kind of talked about this earlier. I'm like, there's when I get some time, I'll try to put something together, because I know I still always
Sure.
wanted to put something in. I know you're based in Detroit, and we always talk about hockey, or at least you're at least a Detroit fan.
Yes.
So
Yep.
what's your outlook on this year's hockey season? It's just about to start around the corner. So
I'm hoping the Red Wings can at least hopefully beat your Senators and for a wild card spot. But hopefully come late March, we're still playing meaningful hockey. I think if that's whether we make the playoffs or not, that'll at least be forward progress on our part. But we had a big off season. We'll see how it all comes together. On paper, I'm excited.
yeah,
Hopefully, it doesn't all fall apart, and hopefully, our top two lines don't all get injured early on.
you guys grabbed DeBrinket from us, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
excited for that. We need 40 from
we thought we were going to get the same thing, but
them.
so I pulled some numbers. It's actually kind of interesting from 21, so the COVID year of NHL, all the
Yep.
way from the last year. So in 22-23, so our last season, Ottawa had 86 points, Detroit had 80, but in 2021 we were at 51 and 48 points. So over the
Ooh,
span of 2 or 3 seasons, went up 66 and 68%. So that's some upward
wow.
trends, and hopefully
Yeah.
break that
Yeah.
100 mark and kind of make it into the playoffs.
Yep. I think it'll be you, me, and Buffalo Sabres. I think will be kind of the three teams that are probably fighting for the same wild card spot. So
Go, Josh says, "Go Caps." Actually, I want Ovi to get the break that record. We'll see what
yeah,
happens.
yeah, that'll be cool to see.
Well, Andrew, thank you very much for taking the time again, and everyone that joined, just watching, commenting. Hi, Heather. Hope you guys are enjoying HDCIA. But again, thank you for joining. Thank you for chatting. So the projects that Andrew's working on, the link for Discord is in the description. So if you aren't part of this, join. If you haven't seen the DFIR Artifact Museum, take a look at that. If you can contribute what you can. If you want to write a chapter in the Hitchhiker Guide, open doors to that as well. Again, Andrew, thank you very much. And I promise at some point we will meet in person.
It'll
So
happen.
we just have to plan this a little better. So again, for those, again, keep in mind is that some stuff you're looking for is not going to be always on the surface. Sometimes you have to dig. Thank you again, and see you next month.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.